the party was a very glamorous thing for young people. I mean, they identified with the leather jackets, the barrettes. They identified with our attitude, our open attitude towards certain situations and certain things, the liberation and the freedom that we had about ourselves and stuff. So it was attractive. It was a magnet. It attracted young people that were basically in an identity crisis. You know, they didn't know which way to go, nonviolent or violent, but they were angry. They wanted identity. So we brought them in and taught them how to analyze. That was one of the main things, one of the main attributes that Huey Newton brought into the party. You see, the party, and he probably explained some of the other interviews, the party was, to me, I always define the party as being an integration of two forces that was in our community. You had the intellectual force, you know, which was the blacks that decided to go to college and pursue a career. And then you had the street force in the community, the blacks that didn't qualify for college, couldn't afford college, dropped out of high school, and were just street brothers like that. So they didn't understand about the legal system. They didn't understand about the intellectual, political structure of the world. They just understood that I'm mad and I want to fight, you know, like that. So Huey brought in a concept of legal education because he was studying law, and Bobby Seale brought in the concept of the street brothers, you know, organizing street brothers. So here you have these two dynamic leaders bringing in these two concepts. So now the street brother can get with the intellectual brother, and the intellectual brother can use his attributes to help tame down the street brother, where we won't be just at random violence like a fire out of control. In other words, the fire that existed in the street brother could now be put under control, and it could have a definition and a meaning. So in other words, if you had a legal situation, whereas the street brother would just be angry and want to fight the police. You know, I'm not going to jail. Let's run up on this. So he would be taken to jail for obstruction of justice. He would be wiped out immediately, you know, like that, through his ignorance of the law. So Huey came in with the concept that we have the right to stand 15 feet away, and we came up with little legal books and said, you have certain rights when the police stop you. That's before they had probable cause and all this type of, Patriot Act and all this type of stuff, or hot pursuit and stuff. But they had to actually have probable cause to hold you, to detain you, or you can walk away. And it was actually defined in the law. Just like we had a right to bear firearms, and we discovered that was in the law. So that's why the Panthers picked up arms, because we wanted to it wasn't so much to shoot people, it was to make a political statement that we have the right to bear firearms to protect ourselves just like any other person. The patriots and all them other people have the right to bear firearms. And so we began to exercise that right. So they made it like we were trying to plot and build up to shoot America. We weren't that foolish. You know we weren't armed enough to try to take on America, but we were armed enough to tell a local policeman that, hey, you know, you come up on me with a gun, I got a gun too. And I got a right to use this gun, you know, like that, to defend myself, not to be aggressive, but to defend myself. So that was, and so that's what happened. And so the Seattle chapter picked up that same zeal, that same education, you know, like that. And we began to have legal classes. We had a legal cadre. We recruited lawyers and stuff like that to come in, fight cases of people that was unjustly arrested. We followed the policemen in what we call survival patrols, and we had a bullhorn, and we had a CD radio where we picked up the police, a scanner where we picked up the police and we follow them, and when they was harassing a brother, we'd get across the street and say, hey brother, you don't have to stay there if you didn't do nothing, just walk away, walk toward us, and stuff like that. So they walked away from the police. The police was infuriated about this because they wouldn't dare follow the brothers over to us because we were armed. So what they did, they began to come up with plots and schemes, look for warrants and look for license plates that was crooked and technicalities and stuff where they could actually harass us and stuff like that. So, you know, we saw the harassment as being our effort to try to, you know, kill the success that we were having, you know, as far as educating people. But we weren't no dummies. We knew exactly what was going down, you know, like that. Even though they tried to portray us as being wild rebels and stuff like this, we have political education classes, legal education classes. We'd structure our moves and stuff like that. We had a plan behind. It was a method to the madness.